Okay, so today I want to talk about when Elizabeth asked me to be her successor, some of my thought process of how I decided to say yes, and some of the fears that honestly I still feel like sometimes I'm dealing with them. So, to set the stage, I met Elizabeth. It was in the context of just like a networking call. I thought I was just going to meet her, learn a little bit about her business. 15 minutes into it, she was like, "Hey, you could be my successor." Now, I was thinking about starting my own business. I had watched my dad build and sell his business. I thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur and do my own thing. And so this kind of came out of left field for me. It can be a little bit different if this is your family business, right? But whether you're an employee who's been somewhere for a while, your situation's a little strange like mine, where you're just meeting an owner and you get kind of an invitation to explore coming into their business, or it's your family business and you're kind of deciding, do I even want to become the successor? I hope that this episode will help you really think through what are some of those fears and some of those things that successors deal with. So if you're a business owner listening to this, these are the things that I went through. And if you're a successor, tell me what's the same, or maybe what is a fear that you have that I didn't list on mine. So I didn't say yes to Elizabeth immediately when she asked me if I would be her successor, but we did decide that we would do a little bit of a trial period because I wanted to learn, what is the role exactly? What is your company? To start to really get to understand. So most successors, by the time they decide that they're going to come into a business, you know a lot about the financials of the business. How's the cash flow? What are the numbers? But I still had a ton of insecurity around these things. Honestly, I still do a little bit when I think about this. But when you're making a big decision, like, is staying in this business the right thing for me? Is this really the thing that I want to do? It's good to kind of know where you're going in life, and does that even align with life? So we have a tool called the Objectives Matrix. And what we do in this tool is we write down the things that are important. What's important to me? What's important to me and my partner? What's important to me and my family if I have kids? What's important to me and my extended family? So you might think about your parents, you might think about siblings, nieces and nephews. What's important for the business, employees, and other pieces like that. So I wrote some things down. I said some things like, I really want to be at least 50% partner. I really need to make sure I have time with my daughter in the morning and quality time with my husband. And I'm not working 80 hours a week. Those are things that were important to me. Some deal breakers, some that are not. And as I started to write this down, I realized it's like really about myself as a person, not the job or the role specifically. And really that does this opportunity align with what is important to me? Because if it doesn't, there's no point in going forward. So the truth is I had a lot of fears. There were a lot of things that I wrote down, but wait, how exactly does that work when you think about succession? So here were the big fears that I had. The first, am I even ready for this? Elizabeth has been doing this for 30 years. I was brand new to the space. I was just thinking about starting my thing. I'm only 30 now. And so it could be age, it could be mental preparedness, it could be leadership skills. On the flip side of that, though, I was like, there's a lot that I know and I can bring to this business. And I'll jump into that in a little bit. But Elizabeth identified me as a person. I know that there's a lot I still have to learn. Do I think I'm actually ready? Do I think I'm ready to come into this? So is it my skills? Is it the timing? Is it something deeper that's holding me back? Am I even ready? So that was the first. The second, money and affordability. So buying into a business, some people get gifted shares. Other people buy shares. Sometimes it's a combo. There's so many different ways that this happened. I look at a business doing a certain amount of revenue and I'm like, how am I even going to afford that? There's so many things that I learned. The payment plans, is the owner carrying it? How are you financing the deal? How do you set the valuation? Do you get any discounts in the valuation? So these are important things, kind of the fear around affordability. On the flip side of that too is, okay, Elizabeth and I decided that I would buy 40%. So I'm buying 40%. What does it look like now for me to buy the remaining percentage? What happens if I increase the value of this business and I price myself out and I can't afford it? That's a real fear that I still have about this business, and thinking about just the mental weight of being able to afford and buy into a business. So on the money side, it wasn't just, can I afford this business, but also how does that affect my family? Is it the right season? Will the business continue to be successful and support these payments, support my family, support all of our employees? That's a big decision, which kind of ties into fear number 3, which is about the legacy pressure. And I'm still afraid that I'm going to be the person to break the business. I don't want to be the person who causes it to go downhill or changes a program that was profitable into something else, and suddenly it's not anymore. So I feel a responsibility to protect the entity as it has existed, but I also feel this like immense pressure to help it grow and to like see it into the future. So there's kind of a lot of feeling there around that dynamic of there's today, there's what I can offer, there's the value that I can increase in the business, but not breaking or hurting the legacy value of a business. Because I could have just went and started my own, but instead I chose to buy into someone else's. So that's a big decision and something that I think about frequently. The fourth and final big fear is really just about relationships and team dynamics. So when Elizabeth and I weren't partners, there's a certain candidness we can have with each other. When you become partners, that dynamic changes, right? Suddenly there's more of a financial stake. The relationship and the money can have more stress, more pressure, a little bit more kind of that inflection point. And so Elizabeth's and my relationship changed. My relationship with the team changed because I'm no longer a peer. Now I'm an owner. Those are big shifts. It can be really lonely to be an owner. And so to make that decision to shift into a leadership role in the business was something that I had to think really carefully about, and I still think about. So those were some of my big fears. I would say my takeaway here is really, I felt nervous. It felt like a red flag. I don't think it was actually a red flag. I think it's good to be nervous. It's good to know the things that you're concerned about because I think they're very valid concerns. These are things that I constantly need to talk with Elizabeth about. And we do this work with clients. So I see other families, I see other successors going through transitions similar to us. And if we do not talk about these fears or these things that we're thinking about, there is no clarity on a path forward. So if a fear is, I don't know what the timeline is, or when I'm going to take over this role, or how I'm going to do this, we need to talk about these things because the things that are left unsaid, the assumptions that we assume our owner or our founder or the generation before us has, if we have an assumption and they have an assumption and those things don't match, that's where miscommunication happens. That's where frustration really ramps up. And that is really hard unnecessarily on every single person. And so we need to have real conversations. For me, that was real conversations with my husband. It was real conversations with Elizabeth, who's now my business partner. It was real conversations with my peer groups, other successors, people that have bought businesses or done partnerships before. What are they learning? What are they navigating? How could I approach a conversation more strategically? Also, it didn't have to be, and then one day I'm the owner of the business. There were lots of small steps and small decisions that can be made along the way. We always say transition is a journey, not an event. So it's not like one day I was 100% owner of this business. A cool thing about a transition is it can happen over time. Even if all the equity gets transferred at once, you might be moving small pieces of role transfer over time until you get to that point. So every transition is different. It depends on the people. But again, transition's a journey, not an event. It doesn't all have to happen at once. And really just as you navigate all those challenges that come up, I can look back where I had resilience. I can look back at where I had a hard conversation and say, oh, I'm so relieved that we finally talked about that buy-in percentage that I was nervous about, or this growth thing that I was nervous about, or this piece where I didn't feel like I was treated like an owner equally. We have to have hard conversations like this to really move forward. So if you're thinking about saying yes to a successor role, or even just trying it on, seeing if it's right for you, if it aligns, know that you're not the only one with a long list of fears. I'm actively in succession, and I still feel concerns and fears about all of these things. So I'm curious, what's the thing that makes you the most nervous about stepping into a successor role? What makes you nervous about even considering it? I'd love to chat. Send me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'd love to hear your story. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for chiming in, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.